안녕하십니까 여러분, brothers and sisters, brodoji and sisters. Welcome back to the MatchNet podcast. This is the podcast, the only podcast that is on heaven or earth about matching and blessing. That is the only one dedicated to helping single people like yourselves get matched and blessed in the best, funnest, happiest, most joyful and enthusiastic way possible. We've got an exciting episode for us today. My heart is racing because I'm a bit nervous to touch on this topic because it's not something that I've discussed before, but I want to go into this because it has been the highlight of my life, of my year so far in 2024. It is something that is deep on my heart and is something that I think we need to talk about as a community, right? And that is not tomorrow. Chanoguk day, not someday. Chanoguk is right now to experience within grasp, not when you experience something, have this or that, or we have some external validated experience or accomplishment in our world. If you look at the world from a very physical, humanistic standpoint, yeah, we're not living in Chanoguk, right? But why is it that True Father and True Mother have literally said, I'll read this speech to you guys in just a minute, literally have said, we are living in the firm establishment of Chanoguk, firmly. She's even said firmly, not hypothetically, not philosophically, firmly established Chanoguk, right? And even so, we still have this internal dialogue within our community, within our own minds that says, you know what, Chanoguk is not here, Chanoguk is not attainable. No, we're living in Chanoguk. And I'm a firm believer in this because of the experience I've had, specifically, my friends, this year, 2024, as of recording, it is December. The year is over. It's over. And I am happy to report to you guys today, as the 30-something-year-old man that I am, with the children and the family I have, and the blessing of 14 years that I have, that this year was the happiest year of my life. Yay! Yay for me. No, the reason I'm saying this, guys, it's not because there's some spectacular thing that happens. It was actually more so because I relinquished and I surrendered a lot of the things that I thought were going to make me happy, and I decided intentionally this year that I'm going to decide to be happy. Part of the process, I'll take a step back. Part of the process of this was the backstory. At the beginning of this year, in January 1st, I decided I'm going to do no more media. All right. Before you get your all, I decided I'm not going to consume any media for the next 21 days. And I decided to make a 21-day devotional period, like no media. And it's not because I was like a super high addict to the news or YouTube or Instagram. It was just that I was honestly, like, to be frank with you guys, I was so grossed out by the algorithms. I was so grossed out that on Instagram, I couldn't go on Instagram without it trying to feed me something borderline sexual in nature. And I was like, I'm just tired of this. All they know about me is that I'm a male. And as soon as I opened up my Instagram account, it like flooded me with like borderline sexual stuff. And I was like, I'm grossed out by this. I don't want anything to do with it. Media is just trying to feed my fallen nature, and I want nothing to do with it. All right. That's my prerogative. That's who I am. Right. And I decided I'm going to do no media this year. So I went 21 days, and my friends, it was the most clear time of my life, that 21-day period. Why? Because I was not letting some external force or algorithm or content consume my peace of mind or interrupt my flow for the day, right? In the morning, evening, in the afternoon, whenever I would go to Instagram or YouTube in particular, or the news, it was like it was interrupting a pattern that I was trying to create. And I didn't realize this. And as soon as I detoxed this stuff for 21 days, I was like, man, my life is so much better, so much happier, not only because of my peace of mind and extra mental real estate and bandwidth I have, but also because I have more time. My goodness, the average stats are from 2 to 4 hours a day of people that are on their phone. So imagine what you can do if you can remove that mostly mindless, I might add, use of social media and news and direct that energy towards doing anything else. So what happened to me is naturally, by nature, I started doing more productive things. In particular, what I noticed I started doing was journaling more, because I still had this habit of taking out my phone when I was like, had nothing to do, or I was like just wanting to zone out. I still had the habit. So I'll like take out my phone, and I have none of the apps on my phone, right? And so the only things I was able to do were to open my journaling app or talk to ChatGPT. That was it. And so the bottom line is this entire year has been an endless pursuit of trying to understand myself and go deeper within. and understand spirituality and understand the nature of God, the nature of myself, to understand my emotions. Why am I feeling certain things? And so there's a perpetual list of journal entries I have in one of my notes apps of just, today I feel angry. Why do I feel angry? Today I felt this emotion. Why did I feel that? So I've become super, super self-aware, I would say, and self-observant this year. And one thing that I strongly observed is that I always had this very subconscious belief that happiness will happen someday for me. And it's very subtle and it's very obvious when you think about it. But I kept having this, like, you know what, when this happens, for example, when my kids are older, when I get to spend more quality time with my wife, when this thing is settled, I'll feel happier, right? And it's very subtle, but I was noticing it when I was doing my journals. It's like, and then I had to stop and I had to look up at the stars as I do. And I had to make this my new motto, which is, if I can't be happy today, I never will be. If I can't experience God today, then I never will. If I can't experience Chanolguk today, then it will never come. And so that is the theme of this episode, and the theme of this year for me is that Chanolguk is experienced today. It's experienced now. Externally, our external world is catching up to the internal spiritual nature and ramifications of True Parents' establishment here. Because of the work that Father and Mother have done, because of these proclamations that have been made, right? The external world is catching up to the internal world that has been established, the foothold that God has established in the world is internally here and accessible within grasp for us, but the external world is just catching up. But the problem is why people get trapped and stuck in this point and tripped up is because we say Chanolguk is here, but the first thing we look at is the external, because that is our tendency as humans, is to first look at what are the external indicators of us living in Chanolguk without even taking a second to notice the spiritual aspects, the internal aspects, the reality that you can create peace, happiness, joy, wherever you are, no matter what situation you're in, no matter what. And I know a lot of people, maybe you yourself, I have in the past, would say things like, oh, but I can't be happy because XYZ. I can't be happy because I don't make enough money. I can't be happy because I'm not matched and blessed yet. I can't be happy because I don't have kids yet. I can't be happy because whatever. All of those things are external factors that do not have to dictate your internal state. That is what I'm saying. How do we know this? Because there are people that can experience happiness regardless of their external circumstances. And it's very easy to point to external things and say, that's the reason I can't be happy, because of this happened on the news, because this is going on in my family, because my parents are doing this, because my siblings are doing this, because I'm not blessed yet, because I'm struggling with porn and masturbation, or I'm addicted to food, or I'm goofing off on social media all the time, because our movement is in trouble, whatever. All external things. All external things that matter, yes, absolutely. Not discounting that. Do matter, important, absolutely. But we cannot discount the fact that your internal state does not have to be dictated by external factors. It can't. It doesn't have to be. This is what Father's talking about. Having dominion over yourself before all of the universe. About being someone that is not. Think about True Father and Hungnam, guys. I like talking about Father and Hungnam because it's a very strong visual that a lot of people can resonate with. Like, this is a dude that's just like, like, imagine receiving a bowl of rice or like half a bowl of rice every day. And his attitude was like, this is too much. I don't need this. Here, I'm going to give half away to someone else. That's his attitude. He's like, I'm not going to die. People are dropping like flies left and right, right? In this prison. Call it a prison if you can. Concentration camp, really. People are dropping left and right. And he's like, no, not me. I'm not going to die. I'm not dying. That was his attitude. He wasn't like, oh God, please save me. He was like, no, I'm not dying. And guess what? He created that reality and he was liberated. He was, goodness gracious almighty, he was liberated from that experience because he just believed it with all his heart. And so he was creating Chanolguk, living in Chanolguk, despite his external circumstance. He was creating an internal world of peace, of inner peace, blissfulness, gratitude, and joy. And enjoyment, enthusiasm for life. And we're going to sit here in our first world countries and say, oh, my life is so difficult. My family's so this or that. I can't experience happiness because my life. No. If you cannot experience Chanuguk today, then you probably never will. Let that sink in for a second. Think about that tonight when you're going to bed or next time you're looking up at the stars. Think about this. If you can't experience Chanuguk today, you probably never will. No matter what's going on externally in your life, no matter how stressed you are from school, from work, with your matching process, with your relationships, with your parents, with your finances, no matter how difficult things might seem, if you can't experience bliss and peace and Chanuguk, despite all that, you probably never will. Because life's just going to get more stressful, my friends. If you haven't noticed, the older we get, generally, the tendency is that the more responsibilities we have, and with that comes more stress, which means more opportunity for growth and becoming stronger. But some people don't get stronger under the weight of stress. Instead, they become weaker and they crumble and they buckle. But that doesn't have to be you. You can see all of that as an opportunity to say, I'm gonna learn how to become stronger. Do you think True Father was, as soon as he went into Hungnam and do you think he had no fear? Of course he had fear. Of course he was challenged. Of course he was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. But he went through it and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to be stronger, to have stronger faith in spirituality, in God, that this is all gonna work out. Not even faith, like unshakable, unbreakable belief, almost delusional, borderline delusional belief. I'm gonna escape somehow. This is not my destiny. It's crazy. I'm going to talk about mother in a sec. So hold on. Hold your horses, all right? So think about that. If you can't experience God now, today, then you probably never will. You probably never will. You're going to have a harder time doing it. So let that be your challenge today, all right? And welcome the stresses. Welcome the difficulty. Welcome the ups and downs of life. Welcome the really difficult teacher in your university, or a really difficult boss in your work, or really challenging matching process. Welcome that. Matching process that don't work out, you get left behind in the dust. Challenges in your relationships with your family members, your parents going through stuff. Welcome that. Be like, this is hard, but this is great because it's an opportunity to grow. I always tell people in a matching process, if stuff comes up, which it will, parents disagreeing with you, parents disagreeing with each other as husband and spouse, you having disagreements or arguments with your matching partner, things coming up that you didn't anticipate, pain of the past, resentment. Look at all that and say, this is the best case scenario. Think about that. The best case scenario is all of this comes out right now and not later. And you have an opportunity to work on it right now. It's a different paradigm shift, I know. And it's hard to go through that tunnel. But if you go through the tunnel and just decide to walk through it, you'll realize that at the end, number one, there's a light at the end of the tunnel because you can see it. And number two, you're going to have to walk through the tunnel and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because you're going to have to face yourself, not other people. You're going to have to face yourself because you're the one that creates or doesn't create Chanuguk and happiness in your life. It's you. All right. So if you can't create happiness today, you probably never will. So why has this year been the happiest year of my life? Because I decided deliberately earlier on this year, I decided I'm going to stop living in the future. I'm going to stop living for some arbitrary moving target of a milestone, benchmark, deadline life. Like when I have this, I'll experience this. When I get this, I'll experience that. I just gave it all up and I was like, I'm just going to enjoy the process. I'm just going to enjoy today. I'm going to enjoy the process of raising these 3 wild kids. I'm going to enjoy the process. And so this year, as a result of making that decision, has been beautiful. This year, I started doing, date nights twice a week with my wife. Everyone's like, all the marriage gurus are like, you got to do date night at least once a week. You got to. And I was like, screw that. I'm going to do it twice a week. So we do a date night twice a week with my wife. I started doing closing with each of my kids individually. We're doing it as a family. Everyone's like, you got to do family closing every night to guarantee your kids will be sane human beings and thrive in this whatever. And then I was like, screw that. And so I started doing it every night with each kid individually, separately. And that's been game changing. So I'll spend that time deliberately every single night. Every night that I'm home, I'll do it. If I'm not home, my wife will do it if I'm not available. And that's produced so many fruitful conversations with my kids of them just feeling loved, feeling grace, feeling part of, our family and part of my life, right? This is the year that I took my son, Kojin, to London and Wales. We had a high noon workshop in London, and I brought him with me. which is super spontaneous and super fun. And then we went to Wales to visit my family. All my cousins and uncle and aunt live there. Mom's part of the family lives in Wales. And that was just a phenomenal, fun trip where we just went to castles and went to arcades and went to the beach and ate Welsh ice cream, that kind of stuff. And then actually next week, my son is going to be turning 10 years old soon. So we're going to take a 10-year trip and we're going to go to Florida, Legoland. He wants to go to Legoland. So I was like, all right, we're going to go to Legoland. And then we're going to do some fun stuff and some adventure stuff. Like he wants to sit on an alligator. If that's a thing, I don't know. You guys let me know. I was like, Coach, you want to see an alligator? And he's like, yes, I want to sit on one. I was like, all right, we'll make that happen legally or illegally. We'll try to figure out. So if this is the last podcast you hear from me, guys, it's because I unfortunately was taken by alligator, which is the way to go, right? And then we'll do Legoland and some water parks, and then I asked Ira, my daughter, I was like, because I didn't want her to feel left out because I was taking him on this trip and in London. I was like, Ira, she's turning 8 years old in January, and I was like, Ira, do you want to take a trip with me? And she's like, yeah, but only if mommy can come. And I was like, okay. She's so sweet. She's the sweetest girl in the whole world. Yeah, in the whole world. Okay. So for those reasons, this year was very happy with me. To wrap it up, it was just because deciding to make the journey, the process of getting somewhere, the actual enjoyment, and not just getting wrapped up in the primary focus of my attention is no longer the outcome, but that's secondary. And the primary focus of my attention now is what am I doing? What is the process I'm doing to get there, of raising kids, of building Chanulguk in our family, of living a high noon life, of doing this kind of stuff, for you, making content. It's just like, how can I enjoy it and invite God into it? And then the byproducts being whatever it is and just being at peace with that. So happy year for me. Why am I saying this, guys? Just to give perspective and framework. Let's go to Chumother, shall we? All right. So here is Chumother's. I thought this was a really fantastic speech she gave in 2020. I was reading it and I was like, this is great. And there's certain parts of it that are really good, but I'm just going to read the whole thing for you guys because it's good. All right. I'm pleased to meet you. I'm going to give some emphasis. All right. I'm not going to lead it. 3 months have passed since our last gathering. May is the most beautiful season, the season of hope. A few days ago, as I passed by the beds of azaleas in the Cheonjeonggung gardens, I was surprised to see so many blooms. I also saw bees and butterflies dancing and working industriously. Seeing this, I thought about Heavenly Parent, the Creator. Heavenly Parent had a dream and created heaven and earth and created these beautiful seasons for the sake of human beings. However, due to the fall of the first human ancestors, even though Heavenly Parent was the owner of the universe, he could not act as the owner. For 6,000 long years, Heavenly Parent waited patiently as he searched for people who could understand his will. Notably, the current coronavirus pandemic has caused national lockdowns throughout the world, and in numerous ways, it has become difficult to make unity as nations protect their own borders and walk individual paths. It is no longer possible to become one solely through human effort and initiative. We have seen that a world of peace cannot be realized through human power alone. What do you all feel? I hope that all of you can also reflect on, review, repent for, and improve your daily lives, since they are the foundation for becoming qualified citizens of Cheonjeonguk. Okay, let me repeat that. I hope that all of you can also reflect on, review, repent for and improve your daily lives, since they are the foundation for becoming qualified citizens of Cheonjeonguk, who will live in heaven for eternity. Hence, I hope that you can all resolve to complete your responsibilities. Will you do so? Yes. The past 4 years have been breathless, fully aware of the providence. I did not have a single moment to relax. I am sure you witnessed and felt this as well. Heavenly Parent alone stood with me. Do you acknowledge this? Yes. When I mentioned that 7 nations had to be restored, few believed me. When I mentioned that I had to go to Africa, that I had to go to Senegal, everyone was against it. However, what was the outcome? And what was the conclusion? We were victorious. And on the foundation of these victories, this year, 2020, I proclaimed the firm establishment of Cheonjeonguk. It is the firm establishment of Cheongguk. Sorry. It is the firm establishment of Cheongguk. Its firm establishment, not just its settlement. A proclamation cannot remain just a proclamation. That is why, during this period of the coronavirus, I spent 55 days in deep prayer and cheonsong. Heaven can no longer wait. While I am alive on this earth, we need to see all people, all of humanity, gloriously attending Heavenly Parent on their daily lives, in their daily lives. While I'm on this earth, we need to see all people, all of humanity, gloriously attending Heavenly Parent in their daily lives. Okay. The conclusion is that we cannot delay no further. The field of practice for true love Heavenly Parent has been dreaming about is not heaven, but earth. Heavenly Parent, who exists as an invisible spirit, wishes to embrace love and raise all people. By becoming one as their Heavenly Parent with the perfected ones in the physical body that stand in the position of the true parents. This dream must be actualized. Heaven can no longer be asked to wait. It is no longer acceptable that humanity only gains understanding through suffering. We do not have time to wait for eons to come into awareness of heaven's will. During the work for Vision 2020, I pushed myself a little too far physically and my legs became painful. My thought was to return immediately to work, but in reality, I was unable to. Mysteriously, heaven granted me the necessary time to rest. Thinking about it, I have nothing but gratitude. Now my work is to show humanity how to live as citizens of Cheongguk, who live in attendance to Heavenly Parent. After True Father's ascension, I spoke about building Cheongguk. Unfortunately, the necessary preparations were not in place immediately. There were numerous obstacles, both from secular situations and individuals. However, I have now made a decision during the beautiful spring season of 2023. I plan on dedicating Cheongguk and establishing the Cheonil Sanctum, the sanctum where we can attend our Heavenly Parent. I think you will remember Father's words from a long time ago. Henceforth, this is a quote from Father, henceforth the number of people becoming aware of God's will and then coming here will be like a great tide. There will be no end of ferries lining up in Busan Harbor. These words cannot fall on barren ground. They must be realized in a substance. Thus, there must be somewhere for the results to be shown. That is why I am moving forward. The reunification of this peninsula is the dream of this nation and its people. I have long since spoken on the subject. Reunification is not possible through human intelligence or human effort alone. The Korean peninsula must become a peninsula that attends Heavenly Parent. In other words, this nation must become a Heavenly Korea. Heaven loves the blessed families and gave you such a gift and such an opportunity. Hence, your responsibility is important. Will you fulfill your responsibility? Not one single person, no one alive on this earth should remain ignorant of Heavenly Parent or of true parents. Please do not gauge the time we are living in with the attitude that you know everything. Do not engage any more in foolish endeavors. Please do not be unfilial in front of true parents any longer. Cheongguk is the unified heavenly nation. During True Father and my holy wedding in 1960, heaven gave me a revelation. Henceforth, all citizens will become Cheongguk citizens of heavenly unity. Whether from the Kim clan, the Park clan, the Lee clan, and so on, everyone will become Cheonil citizens. The issue is how we should live as qualified citizens of Cheongguk. Each citizen's name will be recorded in heaven. You need to understand how great a blessing, yet how scary such a name is. You should not ask, what is Cheongguk? I must take measures such that worthless gossip does not reach my ears. Now it is time to unite with me to in oneness of voice and oneness of action. Just as sunflowers follow the sun, whether the sky is cloudy or covered, you also need to have such an attitude. Do you understand? Yes. Will you do it? Yes. Do you pledge to do so? Yes. I will not wait long. Okay. So, brothers and sisters, back to commentary on this. What do you feel? What is standout moments from this speech that she gave, right? This is kind of a longer version of Mother's speech. She doesn't usually talk this much. What is it that make you feel from when you hear this? There's one thing she said. She talks about, hold on, it made me laugh. I pushed myself. She said, during the work of Vision 20, I pushed myself a little too far physically and my legs became painful. My thought was to return immediately to work. I just had this visual of like your mother going to an office with a briefcase every day and her suit on. I just think that's cute. It's just a really cute way of saying going to work like your mother goes to work. She is work. She is the work, right? Father and mother are the work. And so there's a common themes. First of all, your mother has talked about Chanoguk endlessly here, guys. Like father has talked about the establishment of Chanoguk. Mother has talked about the firm establishment of Chanoguk, not the settlement, the actual firm establishment of it. And she talks about this need many times. She's weaving it in through her content of not seeing from our humanistic standpoint. And she's emphasizing the fact that Chanoguk, this restored world, is not possible from human efforts alone, but it's only through a spiritual factor, a spiritual perspective. And this has been kind of like this summary of this, I guess, this entire podcast, really. The first episode that we did with Yana and myself was on the foundation or the backdrop of this entire podcast and series. We're at like 106 or 107 episodes right now of just is like, where does spirituality come into play into the grand scheme of things? Because if we do look at our movement, right, true mother, true father, from a physical lens, yeah, it doesn't make much sense. It's kind of hard to grapple with. It's easy to poke holes in a lot of things. It's easy to focus on the very, very minute 0.0000001% of things that are material. And it's easy to ignore the immaterial things of the 99.999% of stuff that is actually most of the vastness of the universe and every atom and cell in the universe, right? It's like a classic example that I talk endlessly, perpetually here on the podcast is like, it blows my mind. It actually blows my mind how much emphasis and energy and attention we give collectively to the external, right? To money, to looks, to fame, to social media, to the structure of our movement, to the how things are appearing externally, to all this stuff that matters in some sense, and at times it does matter, but there's a massive disproportionate, unbalanced emphasis to that, and it's not counterbalanced in any productive way with the internal that does matter. And so bringing this back to our movement, our faith, our relationship with God, with true parents, heavenly parent, your relationship with your match, your future blessing, your preparation for the blessing. Even think about that. Take a step back for a second. Your preparation for the blessing, to be in a relationship, to have a family. Most of the time, if you take a second to observe your mind and your heart, when you think about the matching, I'm going to go out on a limb and estimate and guess that a lot of your bandwidth is focused on a lot of the external factors, like how am I going to find someone, the practical, the nuances of what does he or she look like or enjoy, which are like it's like kind of internal, but mostly external stuff. And the whole point of why I do this podcast and like my mission here is to help shift a little bit, maybe just a little bit of that energy, a little bit of that emphasis from I know what's best. Chumother's even talked about in this thing, right? She says, please do not gauge the time we are living in with the attitude that you know everything. Guys, there's one thing that she's made very clear in this passage is that she's hearing a lot of stuff that's just distracting. She's hearing this stuff and she almost has a need to protect her own peace of mind and her own focus and put up safety guards in ways so that she doesn't hear a lot of static, right? And so she's like, please do not do that. Do not engage. Quote, she says, do not engage in any more in foolish endeavors. Please do not be unfilial in front of true parents any longer, right? So she's not approaching this from an ignorant standpoint. I believe that she is actually quite wise and quite smart. And I think that she spends a lot more time than we think in conversation with people and talking and thinking about this. And I think she does. This is a hunch I have. I think she does watch the news and spends a lot of time to that. I also think she spends a lot of time with her grandkids. If I'm to guess, like her heart and also how she's portraying, her lifestyle and how Yunanim in particular has talked about Chumother, and also how Damien has talked about Chumother. I think she spends a lot of her free time with her family, like with little babies and grandkids and great grandkids, right? And so that's all to say, she's literally saying, don't think you know everything. Another way of saying that is that there might be things that you're not able to see currently. And it's just about having the ability to have a little bit of curiosity and perspective to think, you know what, maybe I'm not 100% right? When you're preparing for matching and blessing, it's like maybe you're not 100% knowing exactly what's right for you. I'm just saying, it's good to have a general direction, like a shoot in a general direction, but be willing to course correct and say, maybe that's not it. I mentioned this a few podcasts ago, a guy that was, telling me, he's like, my number one deal breaker is we have to have great faith, the same aligned faith and values. And then my second deal breaker is I have to be attracted to her, right? And I was like, very kindly, like, the first one's great, the second one's stupid. And I was like, that's stupid. Why? Why am I saying that? To throw him off? No, it's because it's okay to have that. That's your prerogative. But if you are operating from a sense of like, this is truth and this is absolute, then you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot and pinning yourself into corner every time you're in a matching process, because you're not open-minded to think, maybe number one, we have aligned faith, but I don't feel attracted to her. So therefore, I'm just going to say a blanket no, because I just don't feel attraction. So what you're doing is you're immediately putting down the ability for God to work in a spectacular, miraculous, mystical way that you weren't seeing before. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not that anything you guys are thinking or feeling about your matching process is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. God, I have to make that clear. I'm not saying finances is not important. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not saying, physical attraction is not important. I'm not saying you shouldn't take care of yourself. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to have opinions about the movement. I'm not saying any of that. You're absolutely entitled to do that. But if you lack the awareness to observe those thoughts and emotions and feelings and say, okay, first of all, is this healthy? Secondly, is it accurate? And thirdly, is this what I want to believe? Because chances are it might not be. And from my experience of helping probably hundreds or thousands of people through matching processes by now, my experience is that having something like a blanket statement, I need to be attracted to my spouse from the beginning, is dangerous because, first of all, it's not accurate all the time. Second of all, I do think that's a limiting belief, right? I think that's a belief that's not serving you because you are not able to see beyond that. You're not able to see beyond the veil of just what is in front of you. And you're immediately going to put up these guards and say, like, well, I already know what I want, so that's not possible for me, right? And that's just an example of a ton of things. Another one might be like, okay, he or she has to speak fluent English. Okay, sure. Great. You can have that opinion. It might be for valid reasons. It probably is for valid reasons. But if you're going to lack the curiosity to say, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know everything. But this is what mother's saying, right? Maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I don't know. If you're not willing to do that, then you're going to be pigeonholing your experience. You're going to be boxing in your experience. And most importantly, not allowing God to just work in a mystical way that you're not experiencing, right? That you wouldn't have expected. God works in the most unexpected ways that you can imagine, all right? And it's okay. Whatever you feel is right or wrong or you want, it's okay. Totally fine. But you just have to take a step back, observe it, and be like, is this what I want? Is it accurate? Is it healthy to have these thoughts? Because there are some beliefs that are really good. For example, my belief in God serves me well. It serves me well. It's beneficial to me. It's beneficial to my family. It's beneficial to society. It's beneficial to other people that I interact with, because it kind of encourages me and empowers me to live a more godly life and to be closer to God and to be more loving and to experience more love and to try to seek God more. So that's a belief I have that serves me well. There are beliefs that probably don't serve you well. Like, for example, along the same coin would be God doesn't exist, and just making a blanket like out the preloaded assumption in every conversation is that spirituality doesn't exist. Then what you're doing is every time you're entering that conversation, anytime you hear about spirituality or God, you immediately put up this guard and say, oh, he's crazy, without any curiosity. It is okay to say, I don't know if God exists. I don't know, because you have curiosity. Because then when those conversations come up, when people have spiritual experiences, you go, oh, wow, interesting. Tell me more. I didn't know this. Like, there's something I need to learn here, right? And so for me, this has been probably the most self-serving, most beneficial belief I've always had, is that I probably don't know everything. I probably don't see the whole picture. I probably don't. And from what I've been told from older people than me is that the older you get, the less you think you know, and the less you know that you don't know. And actually, the more you learn, because you are open to different possibilities, you're open-minded, and you're able to see with curious eyes and listen to people, right? And so I know for myself, when I was blessed, right, 18 years old, or preparing for matching blessing in my teens, I remember distinctly feeling like I know what's best, feeling like I got life figured out. I know exactly what I'm going to do when I'm a husband, when I have kids, when I'm going to start my career. I know exactly what that's going to look like. And as I've progressed in those things, coming 15-year blessing anniversary next year, I've learned that it serves me much, much better to just assume I probably don't know everything, with the caveat that if I feel really strongly about something, I will make it a point to fight for that belief, with an open mind, perhaps, but I'll fight for it. So it reflects in the content that I make, I hope. For example, this episode, I believe in what Mother is talking about here. I believe I have a fervent conviction in what she's talking about, in what I'm talking about, matching preparation and blessing. But if somebody gives me, like a feedback or a comment, which I get, then I will listen to that and be like, oh, interesting. Like I will keep that in mind, and I will tweak, how I speak or something like that. Right. Yeah. So I just want to share that with you guys. This year has been an interesting one for me, a fantastic year. And just to wrap up, the experience I had of coming into this realization that happiness happens today has been just a path of ups and downs, windy roads, falling flat on my face into my knees, crying a lot, emotional roller coasters, ups and downs, and eventually just concluding that if I can't experience happiness today, regardless of the external circumstance, then I can't ever be happy. I probably won't ever be happy. And if I can't experience Chanuguk, two becoming one, God's vision for what life is supposed to be like for humans, if I can't experience that today, right now, then I probably never will, regardless of who you are, regardless of how matched or unmatched you are, regardless of how many kids you do or don't have, regardless of which job you do or don't have, regardless of whether you're a university grad or not. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. No matter how old you are, you can experience Chanuguk today. You can experience true, genuine inner peace and happiness, which only comes from the ability to live in any external circumstance and still feel at peace. You can have that today. You can have that. You can. How? It's a great question. That's a great question. I would say it starts with going inward with yourself. It starts with being inward and focusing on the internal. And as you focus on the internal, you will notice more of your internal world. And the external will kind of naturally not seem as important, or you'll see it more how the external and the internal worlds connect and coincide and are cohesive in a sense. And so just to start with that, go inward. Just of every morning when you wake up, or every evening before you go to bed, right before you go to bed, because that's when our subconscious is most close to us in terms of brain wavelengths. And do a prayerful meditative practice, or just sit still and be quiet. Go inward, see what you notice. Start there, and just decide every day when you wake up, today I'm going to be living in Chanuguk. Today I'm going to have peace and happiness. Or when you are doing this at night in prayer or meditation, whatever it is, before you say, when I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to have the best day ever. I'm going to have Chanuguk. I'm going to be living it with God by my side. And that's all it takes. That's it. If you can't be happy today, you probably never would. All right. Lots of love, guys. Please share this episode with one person if you benefited. Just one person. That's all we ask, because we just make this content to help you guys. If you didn't notice, don't be that guy that doesn't, or gal that doesn't share it, even though I asked you. Please do share it with your team. If you have a parent on your team, or a matching supporter, or a brother or sister in your community, in your family, just share it with them and say, hey, this is what I listened to, and it was life-changing. So I want to change your life too. All right. Lots of love, guys. Thank you.